You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're still covering the Cricket World Cup. 78 weeks into the tournament, we're almost at the knockout stage. Here's what we know. India are still good. South Africa are not quite as good as we thought they were. England are still bad, and Pakistan might be on the charge. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross Legg? It's fireworks night. Have you got any fireworks going off in your area?
Yeah, and I went to fireworks last night, so it was good. And then obviously Virat gave us something to celebrate, as well as kind of the downfall of the British government, or whatever it was. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Very excited to talk about this.
Max, the only thing I can ask here is can you explain to the listeners what fireworks night is? Because Ross has done such a bad job at it there. We'll just confuse.
So, yeah, in the 1600s, some guy tried to blow up Parliament. And then he got caught, so people decided to celebrate. They would burn his effigy and release fireworks on the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason and plot, so the saying goes. So we make things blow up in the sky, and they do pretty things, and people like it, and it's fun. Lots of fireworks, yeah, where I am. Was the downfall of the British government related to fireworks night, Ross, or was it,
well, that's what I assumed blowing up Parliament was all about. That's what I thought.
It didn't work, did it?
No, yeah, but you're still. I'm celebrating that you even tried.
Right.
Okay. Catholics.
You're celebrating the attempt of mass assassination of a government.
The heads of state.
Elected.
One person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist, Max. So
we should probably steer away from this as quickly as possible.
I don't know. Like, why don't we have an in-depth conversation about what we know or apparently don't know about the gunpowder plot? I don't even think it was Guy Fawkes' idea, wasn't it? Catesby or something like that. That's my contribution to the thing.
All went wrong for the guy, right?
Yeah. Then they hung everyone, cut them into 4 pieces, put their heads on spikes, that kind of deal.
Lovely.
Cricket. Let's get on to the cricket. Virat Kohli, he put South Africa's heads on spikes, didn't he, Max? Tell us more.
Did he ever? Yeah, it was his 35th birthday, as everyone in the crowd wanted to remind us. Some with some quite nicely thought out tributes to the man, some with some quite sensible signs, some with some people who had just brought an A3 piece of paper and written some shit on with a biro. I do try harder if you're going to go and take a sign to the cricket and get on TV. That's an aside. India batted first, so we got to see whether South Africa had improved at chasing and got off to an absolute flyer. Rohit Sharma smacked the ball all over the place. South Africa not quite on it, but a couple of wickets fell, and on came the spin of South Africa and Maharaj, which tied things up a bit, got South Africa back into the game, but Kohli and Shreyas Iyer, they saw it out, and they played very sensibly and very nicely for 177 each. Obviously, Virat Kohli scoring 100, the 49th 100 to equal Sachin Tendulkar on his 35th birthday. It's almost like it was written in the stars. And 326 was what they posted. Looked quite a good score, because the thing that was going through my mind while watching Maharaj bowl quite nicely and cause problems for the India batters was that Ravi Jadeja might be a handful when it came to South Africa's attempt at chasing down those runs. And I think 5 for 33 off 9 overs could be described as a handful. He ripped the heart out of the South Africa chase alongside Mohammad Shami, who was excellent again, and 83 all out. I mean, it was, a bit one-sided again. Can anyone beat India? Like, South Africa are the best team that aren't India in this tournament, and they've been absolutely flattened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've touched on the main points there, Max. Ross, 2 things struck me about this game. 1, India are quite good, and 2, Virat Kohli's quite good. Which one of those points would you like to take?
I'll take. I'll take the. I'll start with Virat. Shall I? I'll start with Virat. Equaling
Yes.
Sachin's ODI 100th record. What is it, like 200 or fewer games or something? Like it's quite a significant amount. Like it is really quite a monstrous achievement. And Virat has also overcome struggles in probably the last kind of couple of years. There was a loss of form, didn't hit a century for like 1,000 days. He lost the captaincy, and there was all of the BCCI debacle around it. And yet he's come out of it stronger, and India are stronger for it. They have their gun batsman back. He's more like a fucking rocket launcher, isn't he? Really, if you're kind of considering on the kind of gun part, or a tank perhaps. And yeah, here the birthday boy has had his cake and he's eaten it. He's in brilliant form in this World Cup, and it's on kind of the biggest stage, right? You've got millions of fans on a global scale putting so much pressure on it of being like, you must be amazing. India have to win the World Cup in their home environment. And yet here he is churning out big scores, hitting new heights that people, people haven't been able to do before him, other than kind of this, like the kind of arguably the second best batsman of all time after Don Bradman. It's pretty significant, and to do it against South Africa, who, let's be fair, everybody has kind of said, well, when India face South Africa, this is the big test. Like, you've got a slightly contrasting style. You've got people on the South Africa side who have had like tournaments of their lives, like Quinton de Kock, Ulrich Klaassen, etc. And yeah, it just steamrolled them today.
Yeah, he certainly did. Max, is Kohli the GOAT in your opinion? Does this achievement confirm GOAT status in ODI cricket?
I think what's so impressive about it, I mean, because you can sort of do the comparisons, can't you, with Sachin's 49, and Virat Kohli has scored 100 at a rate of 1 in every like 5.5 ODIs. It's absolutely ridiculous how often he scores hundreds in ODIs. It's hard to say anything other than him being the best ODI batter of all time when you look at stats like that. It's completely nonsense. He's done it against it's only against associate members as well, so he hasn't padded his stats against Namibia or anything like that. It's all against the big boys. It's home, it's away, it's in chases. It's stunning, and just he's back in the mode where you look at him and you're like, we're not going to get him out. He's just going to do what he wants, and let's just hope what he wants to do is I don't know, gives us a hope of actually winning this game of cricket, because at the moment Virat Kohli is he's basically head and shoulders and streets ahead of everyone else, and you can't I mean, what do you do? What do you do to him? How do you negotiate playing a team when you've got a guy who's that good in that kind of form at the moment?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think it's the dedication that I like to the sport and to his skill that is most impressive about Kohli. Obviously, we know that he had the 1,000-day century famine, but he never sort of dropped his intensity level on field, and he never let his fitness go. I mean, the guy is 35. For a lot of professional athletes, you're you're done at 35, but he looks in as good a shape as ever. Batted for more than 3 hours today. 61 of his 101 runs came by running up and down, which is pretty good going. And obviously at the other end, he's had to do the legwork for his partner as well. Boundaries a little bit harder to come by in this match for quite long periods during Kohli's innings. He came in after all the fireworks early. And he was there for the fireworks at the end for sure. But there was a good 30 overs where it was tough cricket. I think for Virat, it is really impressive. It's good to see him master at work. Ross, do you want to talk about India being really good as well?
Yeah, let's start with Rohit, shall we? Because he's been absolutely phenomenal this World Cup. And for again, the last kind of few years, there's been question marks around what India's approach was going to be at this World Cup. And they've seemingly could have got there perfectly, right? And Rohit Sharma embodies that. His intent at the top means that they feel that they can take down and chase down any target. And they also feel that they can set one that they're going to be just like, right, go on, see if you've got the minerals to take us on here. And Rohit has done brilliantly with the bat, selfless, I'd even say, which is not what you can sometimes say around the previous kind of openers in that space. And yeah, India's bowling lineup, I'm so glad they have kept with the attacking nature of this. When Hardik went down, that would have rumbled some of the other best teams, right? They would have panicked. India didn't. India have kept to, no, we're going to take these guys down. We are pound for pound better than everybody else. And yeah, the likes of Shami, Siraj, they're performing brilliantly. And yeah, just this all-round lineup is pretty staggering. You mentioned Jadeja earlier. There was rumbles before the World Cup that, kind of he's not contributing much to India. Like there was literally Indian fans going, yeah, I'm not so sure about him. And you're just like, what were they smoking? He's an unbelievable cricketer, and batting wise today added some what turned out to be not very important runs, but there were if they potentially could have been. And with the ball, like he's just so clinical, like puts it on the spot, does enough, and yeah, he's staggeringly elite level cricketer, Jadeja. Formidable. This India lineup.
Max, where did it go wrong for South Africa? We'll talk about them really briefly, and then we've got Super Saturday to talk about.
Yeah, South Africa. Well, the power play, as good as Rohit was, and I think it's a bit weird in a game where Kohli scored 100, Shreyas Iyer scored 77. You could gloss over basically how important that Rohit Sharma start was, because that was a tough pitch to bat on, and the fact that they scored 91 in the first 10 overs gave India the ability to not worry about actually scoring many runs for the next 25 overs when it was really tricky. And it also kind of meant that South Africa were sort of happy to at least feel like they were getting back into the game by restricting India's scoring. They weren't necessarily they weren't taking any wickets, but they were dragging themselves back into the game. But there was no pressure on India to score more quickly than they did in that period, because they had that head start from Rohit, and that whole power play set up the game for India. And part of that is down to the way South Africa bowled. I mean, we saw when Rabada came on towards the end of the power play, he hit a length and it was really difficult to score. And basically Marco Janssen and Gidi kind of missed the trick, really. There wasn't any swing for Janssen. It was sort of a different sort of pitch, wasn't it? It kind of seam was where the danger was from the pace bowlers, and they missed their lengths, they missed their lines, and they got punished, and it sort of spiraled out of control from there. Really, it was kind of a snowball just from that early bad start. And I mean, they fell in a heap and were all out for 83, but they were never going to chase 326 on that pitch, unless there was an outrageous amount of dew or something extreme happening. They were out of the game by that point. So you could probably gloss over the batting a little bit, probably just be glad it was over quickly. But I think that start is just where it went wrong for South Africa, and it's not ideal, is it? I mean, was it the first ball that went for 5 wides? kind of set the tone.
A few times. That's happened a few times in this tournament, I think. The first ball going for 5 wides. At least South Africa, with a big dent to their net run rate, in a position where they might have to win their last match they probably will have to win their last match, and maybe convincingly to hold on to second place, which when you've just been tonked by India is actually doesn't really matter, does it? Because I was going to say they could slip and have to play India in semi-finals, but that's not how the tournament works. Yeah, that's not. Don't ignore that. Ignore that whole point.
I think South Africa
they might have to wear their away kit.
Yeah. I think they will obviously be bitterly disappointed, and like even more so in the fashion of the loss. But in a weird way, it kind of makes me like them a little bit more. Because they've got all the parts of an absolutely brilliant team, and they've demonstrated that at this World Cup, and yet they are completely and utterly flawed. They've got this huge chasm that they just like willingly just jump into, and it is incredible, like the ceiling of this team and the floor of this team. And it is that's quite an exciting proposition, I think, to actually follow. Makes the tournament a little bit more interesting for me personally.
We thought England signed it, like that, but then the ceiling fell down.
Yeah, but England also lost 6 of their 7 games of the World Cup, and
turns out England's fall was their ceiling as well.
Yeah. Cyan Dip has sent us a super chat, so thanks for that. And Zishan, I think this will be where we wrap up part one, asks how to beat India. All I can say is you have to just hope you get really lucky.
It does
You
look
have
like
to,
it, doesn't it?
yeah, you have to play pretty much your best cricket for the full 100 overs of the match, because you can't. In a lot of these teams, you could beat in 10 overs if you have a good spell in the power play. That's not really how it works with India. Even if you get the top 2 or 3 out, somebody's going to rebuild for them. They bat all the way. Well, Jadeja could probably bat 25 overs for them if you really needed him to. So you have to bowl really well for your whole innings. And then with the bat, they're just facing their bowling is the hardest task in this World Cup. Like, it's relentless. It's 50 overs of bowling that walks into every other team in the tournament. There's just no weak link. So you have to be absolutely on it for 50 overs, which is really hard. Like, there's not many teams that can do that. We thought South Africa might be one of them. They've lost by 250 runs here. Like, it's
But India have also been really unfair, haven't they? Because they decided to play with 11 instead of 10, and they were willingly doing that when they were playing Shardul Thakur, and they were just like, actually, we should try and win this World Cup. Mohammed Shami, do you fancy a game? And literally, like, the guys ran through teams. It's absolutely insane. Kuldeep Yadav, when he got Ngidi out at the final ball, was like almost like embarrassed for South Africa. It was such a demolition job that there was even that bit of, oh yeah, we have won, but this didn't even trouble us, and that's an ominous sign.
You know what Mohammed Shami's average with the ball is in this World Cup at the moment?
7.
He's fourth top of the wicket taker league, and he's played 4 games.
Yeah,
It's outrageous.
It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. Right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll be talking England v Australia, and a pretty crazy match between New Zealand and Pakistan as well, which has implications. A quick reminder that if you're watching on YouTube, do drop us a like and do click subscribe. We went through the 14,000 subscribers mark, so thanks to everyone who listened there. Next job, 15k. So if 950 people can subscribe after watching this video, we will be there straight away. So that's the task for this one. And obviously, if you're on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple, I think as it is actually known, or any of the other podcast platforms, do click subscribe there as well. We will be back in 2 seconds.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to get England v Australia out the way before we talk about a much more important game between Pakistan and New Zealand. Max, my main takeaway from the England game is that it's a real shame that they have to play 2 more matches in this tournament. 5 losses in a row now. They sit below Bangladesh at the bottom of the table. How did they fare v Australia?
Well, Jack, against Australia, it was probably one of their better attempts at winning a game of cricket in this World Cup, in fairness to them. And Australia are a good side. So, if you took this game out and put it in a different World Cup where England weren't completely embarrassing, you'd be like, bad luck. They didn't do too badly, but, it wasn't their day. And that's where I would land on this game. They started quite well with the ball. Wokes got 2 early wickets. Travis Head and David Warner fell. Smith and Labuschagne put on the rebuilding job. Probably it happens to be the 2 guys you'd want in that situation. They were kind of forced into that hand because of Mitch Marsh having to go home and Glenn Maxwell suffering from the concussion on the golf course. But they did the job. They got Australia back into it. And then lower order runs from the most unlikely of sources, Adam Zampa, managed to get Australia to 286 on a pitch that was offering assistance for the bowlers. It wasn't terrible. It was quite a decent wicket, I thought, for a game of cricket. But 286 was probably a decent score, and England got off to a very bad start. The question in the Discord chat was, how many balls of Stark's in swing is Johnny Bairstow going to survive? And the answer was none, because he was out first ball. So
One.
But well, he didn't survive it, did he? So I'd say he survived 0 balls because he was out.
Right, I understand the argument.
But yeah, semantics.
You may
Anyway.
concede.
Yeah, Milan and Stokes, they rebuilt. They sort of dragged England back into it, and England kind of were at a point where they were well in it. They were behind the rate, but they looked like they had a chance to catch up. And then every time it did get to that point, England lost a wicket, often at the hand of Adam Zampa, who, after his heroics with the bat, then performed some heroics with the ball. And after a sort of brief period where Moeen looked like he might sort of get us back into it again, it all fell in a heap once more. And Chris Wokes and Adil Rashid were left to, make it a little better on the scorecard than it was in the end. But I actually think England were a little bit unlucky overall in this game. And, having spent the last 3 weeks absolutely lampooning them for being hopeless, I felt myself almost just pitying them by this point.
Isn't this like Stockholm syndrome, where
it could well be Stockholm syndrome.
You start to like your abuser.
Yes, yeah.
Ross, where do you fall? Are you in the? Are you in Max's camp? Basically,
absolutely. No, England were absolutely dog shit. It was an absolute shambles, if I'm perfectly honest. You look at what they did here. Like they had Australia in a brilliant position, right? So Australia weren't even that good, and yet they managed to get themselves to 286. It felt like they had a few starts, but England had a real knack for taking wickets. You're just like, yes, go on. It's the hope that kills you. I'm a Spurs fan. I know all about that pain. But when they had them 178 for 5, Max, I think there was a real opportunity. And at this point, I could kind of agree with you that England were doing a really good job, but they let Australia off the hook, and you can't let Australia off the hook. Cameron Green batted well, Stoinis batted well, the contributions down the order did enough, and 286. I never thought England were getting there. Like Moeen Ali came out and said that the team have lost confidence, and you're just like there was no confidence from me whatsoever that England were going to get there, and yeah. Just the lack of good performances from some absolutely stalwarts of England in terms of Joe Root and Joss Butler in this World Cup campaign. Liam Livingstone coming in and us being England thinking, oh yeah, he can do what he does in T20 cricket. He's been the biggest bust going at this World Cup. And yeah, unfortunately for England, they were absolutely dreadful. Moeen Ali did something a little bit. Ben Stokes stood up and kind of batted on one leg again, and you're just like, why is he still here? Just send him home. Like, what are we playing for? And yes, just losing to Australia has just put the cherry on top in terms of how disastrous this World Cup has been. And the fact that Australia didn't even really have to pull out all of the stops to do it, they just kind of routinely dismissed us, just like they used to do, was just painful as an England fan.
Well, England did let it slip a bit from 178 for 5, but I think that is where I feel the bad luck came in. Mark Wood actually bowled reasonably well towards the back end of the innings. He was getting a bit of reverse swing. He was causing problems. And honestly, that lower order of Australia could have been wrapped up for 40 runs less than it was. The number of times someone spooned the ball up in the air and it fell between 4 England fielders was genuinely getting ridiculous by the end of it. And I just like England have been, they've been downtrodden the entire time, and it's almost like the old moniker of you making your own luck. When things are down, the luck goes against you and all of that. But I mean, it was getting silly. Like there were like 5 in a row where, I mean, realistically, on another day, Mark Wood's taken 3 wickets in 2 overs and the innings is wrapped up. And that was where I felt England were probably a bit unlucky. And then, Johnny Bairstow ticker one down the leg side. Joe Root gets the faintest feather on one behind, having, a game before feathered, as far as he's concerned, feathered an inside edge and been given out LBW. It's just those sorts of things where you're like, when things are already bad, then the luck goes against you, and sort of I felt a little bit sorry for them by this point, because it wasn't their worst performance of the World Cup, and it was probably one of Mark Wood's best bowling performances, and he still ended up going for 7 over. And I do wish it were over.
Yeah, well, we'll be soon. We had a super chat in here from B, which gives us the talking points I think we need to finish off this segment. We're not going to talk about Australia. We'll get plenty of opportunities to talk about them later in the tournament because they've been okay and qualified. Well, basically qualified now for the next round. Good, well played Zampa, I'd say. I thought Zampa, pretty decent. The comment is KP says that Josh should open the batting, which I agree to, and Brooke should start every game. What are our thoughts on that? If England doesn't make the Champions Trophy, then is this the lowest point in English cricket? Well, I'll answer the second bit first, and then we've got some talking about what England could do next. This is definitely not the lowest point in England cricket history. This is actually a pretty standard World Cup performance by England in terms of the.
We've lost 6 of 7 as defending champions.
Yeah, no, I know, but like we came into it as England came into it as defending champions. There was no, in 1999, hosting the World Cup, they got knocked out before the official tournament song was released. Then they were knocked out in May. Like the cricket season doesn't really start till June in England. Like it's really impressive to be that bad. So I'd say 1999 was pretty bad. Obviously, losing to Ireland in 2011 was a bit of a shocker. Bangladesh in 2015, also quite bad. Flintoff on the Pedalo in 2007 wasn't particularly good.
And that's not to mention the whole of the 1990s.
Yeah, in 2003, they forfeited a game that meant they got eliminated for reasons that were probably fair, but because of the political situation, well, I think they made the right call on this. They kind of got shafted, and even in that tournament, they had the opportunity to beat Australia, but some bloke called Andy Bickle, who was batting 9 for the Aussies or 10 for the Aussies, had a day out, won them the match. So there's just a few examples of performances that are probably on a par with how bad this has gone. I don't even know what happened in 1996. Probably something heinous. And we've not even touched on Test cricket here, which is really what people care about in England. And England have been spectacularly shit at that fairly recently. I would say the Ashes tour, the recent Ashes tour, probably a lower point in English cricket history than this World Cup overall. So, there's that. They've still got the T20 Cup, but they're still champions of that. The Test team's all right. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as was it Meatloaf said. So let's move on from that. What max though can England do, or what should they be doing here? Ross is sending Stokes home. That seems like logical, bearing in mind he's got one knee. Should Joss open the batting? Should Brooke be playing every match?
Well, you might as well play Harry Brooke at this point because he's obviously penned as someone that they want to build a team around in the future. The whole, all the furore beforehand about trying to say, this squad's not final because everyone said Harry Brooke should be in it. Don't worry, we might change our mind. So you should probably play him at this point, especially if you are going to give Stokes a rest. The Joss Buttler opening thing, I mean, we've been through it before. He's never opened in an ODI. And if KP is suggesting it, then I'm sort of loath to agree with anything that he might put forward. Or we'll end up with franchise Test cricket. Or
to be honest, Matt, just on that, I kind of want to get a gun and hunt rhinos because of his stance on rhino preservation. That's how annoying I find Kevin Peterson. But carry on.
Yeah. So it's not going to... Joss Buttler opening the batting is not going to fix England's ODI cricket. That is not the problem. So I don't see the value in that, really. There's a lot more.
Also, he's
basically everyone playing badly.
He's batting in an easier position than opening the batting, and he scored 106 runs at 15 in this World Cup. In what universe do you think, let's move him up to open? This will solve the fucking problem. Are you joking? It's a disastrous call. Awful.
Give Mark Wood a go. That's the real solution here.
What about Chris Wokes? That's the Jonathan Agnew suggestion, isn't it? Chris Wokes, maybe he could open the batting.
Possibly. Why not just flip the batting order?
They should do that for the final game.
Best at 11.
For the final game of the World Cup, they should draw positions out of a hat, draw the first shot out of a hat. We'll give Harry Brooke a bowl because everyone likes to see Harry Brooke bowling off the wrong foot. That's what we need. Yeah, a bit of something light-hearted to finish on.
Solved. Right, let's move on to the more important game. In the it's going to be a mega show, isn't it? How many more games we got to do? 3. New Zealand v Pakistan. Max, this was a bonkers match.
Yeah, it was at Bangalore, so we know what can happen, and that is what did happen. Devon Conway fell early, but Rachin Ravindra scored another 100. He is now the first New Zealand player to score 300s at an ODI World Cup, and also the first player to score 300s on his debut ODI World Cup. So it turns out he might be really good at cricket. And not only him, Kane Williamson, 95 off 79. He came straight back in and smashed the ball all over the place. And then everyone else started smashing the ball all over the place. And for a team, Pakistan, who needed a net run rate boost to overhaul their opponents, to then put them in and concede 401 must have been pretty, well, deflating,
Bad.
should we
Real
say.
threat. Yeah.
But hey, guess what? Fuckers, a man went mental. It turns out not playing Imam Hack's really sensible, and they have a man who can score sixes. He scored 11. He hit 11 sixes. Some of those would have been in the power play as well. 126 off 81. He finished on when the rain came for the second time. Babar Azam did manage to get his strike rate above 100 in the end. He was plodding along in his usual stance, while the guy at the other end was single-handedly trying to chase down 400 runs for his team. But yeah, then the showers came. They shortened the game once. Gave Pakistan a revised target of, was it 342 off 41 overs. Pakistan went out and bashed the ball around a bit more. It looked like it was going to be another really exciting finish, but then the rain came again, and Pakistan, 21 runs ahead of DLS, took the points. But we were a little bit robbed, weren't we, of what could have been an absolutely fantastic finish to a fantastic game of cricket. It was still fantastic, even though it was shortened, and it's good that there was a result, because that's good for the tournament and for Pakistan's hopes. But yeah, I mean, Fak is a man, obviously the man of the hour. New Zealand 4 defeats on the bounce with 1 game to go. It's getting exciting. Things might happen.
I think this is why in this game we saw a little bit of why a lot of people weren't particularly hot on New Zealand before this tournament. Despite how well they batted, they really looked fairly pedestrian, maybe slightly shambolic with the ball. Ross, Fak as a man, though, even given the circumstances and the fact that it's a depleted New Zealand and they weren't playing well, to be quite honest, that is one hell of an innings that he's pulled out the bag there.
Yeah, it was magnificent, and he flayed New Zealand's bowlers. And like, regardless of what you say around kind of like Trent Bolt is still a decent bowler. He literally had him on toast. He was spraying him around. It was brilliant. This was a guy that Pakistan will and ahh whether they should even take him to the World Cup. You're just like, he's just performed unbelievably. Dropped like one of the all-time batting performances, and it is incredible. Max, you talked about Pakistan kind of picking at the toss to bowl first. Perfect. Like, what a decision. Like out of it, like they knew rain was coming. They knew what they had to do. Like the Pakistan Brains Trust got it spot on.
Well, I mean, that is one angle on it.
It's the most Pakistan thing I've got. I was watching it. I could not believe what was happening. I was just like, how are people Pakistan fans? Like, it is like the most stressful thing in the world, and it must be.
How are they not Pakistan fans?
but yeah, it's just it is just so unbelievably draining as a spectator for them, and it is so brilliant. It's like it left me afterwards like bereft. I was a little bit just like, I'm so disappointed this is over, because as you say, Max, the last chasing down the other 200 odd runs would have been a complete utter roller coaster. And at the same time, Fak Zaman has done this with the anchor, the ball and chain that is Babar Azam. He literally at one point, like, it was like, didn't hit a boundary for like 25 balls. And you're like, mate, what game are you seeing? You got chased down 400 and yet they still win. It's bonkers. And also, it's so New Zealand for them to lose in this fashion as well. Like, so, like, it's unlucky. And yet you're just like, the nice guys.
There was the chase against Australia, wasn't there, where they nearly took down 390 odd. And came so close and did so well. Then they've got them put off 401, and
They're the second team ever in ODI cricket to bat first, get 400 and lose. That's the magnitude of what Pakistan have pulled off here. I mean, like it is.
Nice guys finished last, didn't they?
It is pretty nuts, and I can pretty much guarantee you that Pakistan are going to lose to England in the final match. Now that's what this is set up. Like it's. I'm sorry, Pakistan fans, but you're in for one hell of a disappointment in that final match.
They're going to lose to England. New Zealand are also going to lose to Sri Lanka, but still make it through.
Yeah, there is a question. There's kind of a counterfactual one, Max, about what would have happened. Obviously, when DLS gets involved, sticks its oar in, there's it's an algorithm and it makes a prediction. And sometimes you look at it on face value and you think, I'm not so sure about that. I think DLS might have been off. I think Pakistan probably were ahead in the game, but do you think they would have picked up the last 201 runs to win it?
Yeah, I do. Because did you see what was happening to Glenn Phillips and Ish Sodhi? And they had to bowl another 11 overs between them. They could have got the runs just off those. It was bowling one of the worst spells of bowling I've seen, apart from perhaps Tabraiz Shamsi today. I should have mentioned that earlier and how bad he was given the conditions that were in his favour. But yeah, Ish Sodhi was bowling like a drain. Glenn Phillips was basically getting treated like a part-time off-spinner in one of the world's smallest grounds. So it's not entirely his fault, but it was happening. And even Mitchell Santner was getting a bit of treatment. I think Pakistan were well in with a shout of winning it. Obviously, it was still a long way to go, but I would have backed them to finish that off with the wickets in the hutch as well. Yeah.
Cheers, Swami. It seemed like it was going to go to Pakistan. I do. I mean, I agree with both of you as well. Like it does feel like we were robbed slightly of the glory moment of a Fakhar Zaman double century with Babur at the other end, 100 off 110 balls. Yeah, it's good. It did. I mean, obviously, it has repercussions to the table as well. Both of these are now on 8 points. Both have a positive net run rate. Pakistan's is about 0.4 of a run behind New Zealand, which at this stage in the tournament is actually quite a significant quite a significant margin to overcome. Like they're going to have to wallop England in their last match and hope that New Zealand either lose to Sri Lanka or that game is quite close. Ross, do you think Pakistan have got hope here? Like, where do you come down?
Magic carpet ride. I am on the magic carpet ride for Pakistan getting to the semi-finals. Like, just the hubris of it. I'm there. I just think from it being so Pakistan to pretty much be dead and buried in this World Cup after some of the most abject performances you possibly are going to see at a World Cup, and then to find themselves in the semi-final playing against India in the semi-final. I just think that is, it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm on the bus. Pakistan are going to make the semi-finals. New Zealand are going to lose again to Sri Lanka, and it's all going to be very, very exciting for Virat Kohli to hit a double century against Pakistan in the semi-final.
Max, where do you stand? Pakistan going to do it?
I can't possibly see New Zealand losing to Sri Lanka. It can't happen. They're so bad. They're better than us. Better than England, yeah, sure. But no, surely not.
Madhushankar's going to rip through the top order, mate.
Could happen.
It's I mean, I've just looked at the odds for it. Sri Lanka are not favourites.
Add to the Matthews.
Sri Lanka are only marginally more likely to win, according to the odds makers, than the Netherlands against England. To be fair, Netherlands probably priced wrong in that match. They should probably be a lot closer. Anyway, we're going to wrap up part 2 now, and then we'll come back with part 3. 2 more games. We've got Friday's match, which featured Afghanistan, who obviously is still well in the hunt themselves. And then we'll talk briefly about India v Sri Lanka, which feels like years ago. Be back in a moment.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast, where we've got two more matches to talk about. We're going to start with the Netherlands v Afghanistan. Max, it was a big win for Afghanistan, not just in terms of the match, but also in terms of their tournament hopes. How did they pull it off?
They pulled it off, Jack. Thanks in no small part to the Netherlands. And well, I mean, because they started quite well. They
started really well.
It was 70 odd for one after like 11 overs. They'd got off to a really good start at Lucknow, which we weren't sure how it was going to play. I think it probably played quite well in the end with the bat, but they were well on course for a decent total that would have put Afghanistan under some pressure. And then 4 of them ran themselves out in the space of like 3 overs, or well, I mean, the 4th one didn't come in through, but Max O'Dowd, Scott Edwards, and Colin Rackham all committed suicide in double quick time. Some of the most brainless cricket I can remember, which is so at odds as well with how the Netherlands have played so far in this tournament. They lost the plot. It was weird. It was so weird. It was like Angelo Matthews had just come and cast a hex on them from somewhere. Just having done eating England for dinner, he thought he had a bit of spare time, was gonna cast some hijinks somewhere else for a laugh. It was really odd. Yeah. And then Netherlands they scraped to 179, but once they'd lost that top order through absolutely, well, purely their own doing. Basically, it was some good fielding, but realistically, Afghanistan just turned up, and the Netherlands handed them some wickets. And once again, they chased it down quite impressively. There was a couple of early wickets, and you thought, well, maybe things will get a bit tense, but no. Once again, Ramat Shah came in, scored a really composed 50, and the captain finished it off with Azmatullah. Another professional performance chasing from Afghanistan, which has been sort of a feature of their wins lately, which is super impressive. And they march on. Banana skin avoided, and well in with a shout themselves. Arguably, it's in their hands.
Fate's in their hand. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. No, it definitely is. I mean, the running Ross was embarrassing. It's not also it's number 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the batting lineup that have run themselves out here. I mean, that must be some sort of record in cricket. Like someone, Andy Zaltzman or whoever, Cricket Stats Watch must have a stat about how unlikely that is to happen. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
But watching the dugout lose their minds when this was happening. Like the first one, they were angry. Second one, you're just like, oh, you're joking. Third and fourth, I genuinely thought they were going to blow their top. Like it was absolutely ludicrous what happened. And you watch it, like there's a little bit of fortune for when Max O'Dowd gets out, the guy throws it in from fine leg, and it kind of is like an almost perfect throw. But just you could not believe what was happening. Like Afghanistan were just looking at each other, just like we're not actually playing very well here, but we are going to win this game really easily. And yeah, it was for all the praise that we've given Netherlands around doing the basics right throughout this tournament and kind of giving themselves every opportunity to do well. They let themselves down and some here. So. Yeah, it was very, very unfortunate for them. But Pakistan, Afghanistan also managed to kind of bowl reasonably well at that point as well. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit complacent. You think the game is won. Here, Max is going to use the term kind of professional. I thought they were that. They took what was in front of them, didn't get carried away, did a really professional job, and was looked at every ounce a serious contender for the semi-final spots. And it's just unbelievable that them losing to Bangladesh is going to be the thing that kind of potentially doesn't. Is this thing that holds them back, as they've got Australia next and then South Africa to finish on.
Yeah, I mean they'd be obviously with that win, if they had won that game, they'd be in a really good position. New Zealand and Pakistan would only be able to match their points total, and they wouldn't have. They'd have a much better net run rate had they not actually been beaten pretty badly by Bangladesh. Oh, Max, are they going to pull it off? Are you in Afghanistan?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. They're going to beat Australia. Australia are going to just have a day off because they've started badly. They've trailed back into the tournament, and maybe they're going to tail off again. Maybe they think, their job's done, and or maybe they'll just be like, it would be really funny if we lost to Afghanistan because then New Zealand miss out. That's the other thing. Maybe they want to get one over on their.
Is that the Wankhede? Like,
yeah, it's not. If they could choose a ground, Afghanistan to play Australia at, I think the Wankhede would probably be in the bottom 2 or 3 available. But hey, you never know. It could be fun. Or South Africa might. I mean, they'll be they're in the semi-finals already. It's going to be their last game, so maybe they'll
be on the beach.
They're
going to be on the beach.
Well, they might want to rest a couple of bowlers for the semi-final. I mean, Ngidi went down injured at the end of the game today. So, I mean, there's every chance Afghanistan are well up for it, and South Africa are sort of off the boil a bit because their work's done and they're thinking about the semi-final. So, I mean, there are sort of reasons why Afghanistan might be able to do it. And in the interests of, excitement and someone not from the top 4 qualifying, let's say it's going to happen. Why not?
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. Just really no logical argument there.
No, not at all. No, because if I was going to apply logic to it, I would say no, Afghanistan are not going to beat South Africa or Australia. But I don't want to do that. That's boring.
That's another answer that you could provide. That's the answer that I would have provided. So, I don't have to worry about that. So it's a tough turnaround for Afghanistan this week as well. They play Tuesday and Friday. So they're Mumbai to Ahmedabad. Which isn't the longest journey in the tournament, but it is quite a tight turnaround. I mean, like, you'll be finishing late on Tuesday, traveling presumably on Wednesday, but you've got one day of practice at the new venue before you're supposed to go out and play South Africa, which also isn't ideal. But you never know. Sport's all about is dreams like this. Anything else on this game before we move on to the final one? Going to take that as a no. You couldn't. Generally, podcast things works better, boys, if you use the pauses to add insight, information, clever ideas, or at least say no, I haven't got anything. But on this case, we'll let it slide. I think it was the 33rd match of the tournament was India v Sri Lanka. Not really a huge amount to talk about in this. I mean, there's plenty to talk about, but in the context of the tournament, there isn't a lot to talk about. India batted first. They got 357 for 8, which was pretty good. Nobody in the team got a century. Virat Kohli threatened it at one point. So did Shubman Gill, and Shreyas Iyer also cashed in. We did say, Max, that Gill and Iyer had yet to fully turn up in the tournament, so both of them will be pleased with their contributions there. And then Sri Lanka, well, none of them turned up, really. They were bowled out for 55. It's the second time I think they've been bowled out for 55. What was it, 56 in the Asia Cup final in the last month and a half 50. By India. Oh, was it? Yeah, so they're 105 for 20 against India. A little amuse-bouche, if you like, an aperitif before England go and play a test series there in January. Max or Ross? Well, let's go Ross. I always go to Max first. Ross, what's your insight from this game?
Sri Lanka are absolutely dreadful, aren't they? Let's be fair. What an abomination! If you're a Sri Lanka fan listening to this, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that. To get bowled out for 50 in the Asia Cup final, and then to be decided, we're going to bounce back here. We've batted really well on the most part this tournament, and we've not embarrassed ourselves, even though we've been so depleted by injuries. And to completely fold like a complete pack of cards, it was just embarrassing. And yes, India are unbelievably strong. Yes, they are going to win this World Cup, but at least have a bit of self-respect, guys. Like, it was such a poor performance. And yeah, yes, there was some decent bowling, but not the decent bowling to get you out for 55 or whatever it was. Like, just pathetic, ultimately.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to say it better myself. Max, some more good performances from the Indians. This time Siraj running riot.
I mean, there was a Crick Viz stat about it being the highest opening spell for expected wickets in ODIs in sort of the last like 8 years or something. So I mean, Sri Lanka, yes, they were quite poor, and they are substantially poorer than India as a cricket side, but they also came up against the best bowling attack in one-day cricket in the world, putting together one of the best opening spells in the tournament. So it was a little that, they were a little bit up against it, as well as not performing. You do have to say, you have to give credit where it's due to the Indian opening bowlers. They've done it once again. Between them, Siraj, Shami, Bumrah, whoever it is, they've been so on it so far. I mean, the England game was similar. That opening spell was terrific, and again today the opening spell was terrific. They're just such a force at the moment. So Sri Lanka, as much as you can pan them for being a bit crap, they did also just come up against the juggernaut.
It was impressive watching Siraj and Shami bowl, wasn't it? Like literally some of those deliveries, you were just like, oh my good lord. And for Siraj, like, who hasn't bowled brilliantly all tournament, he's been decent, but he's struggled at certain parts. Just to turn up and just be like, yep, I'm going to just be the best bowler in the world at the moment. It's just like, wow. It was absolutely staggering.
Yeah, I haven't got really anything to add on that. It was a bit of a blowout game. A bit of a blowout game. It was a massive blowout game. If Virat got that would have been the game from a talking point of view, for Virat to get the 100 that he needed to tie with Tendulkar, because
he got saved for his birthday, didn't he? He had to.
Then there'd be something from this game that was actually worth discussing. There isn't here. Shami was good again. Siraj was good. End. We've got a couple of fixtures coming up this week. I think the next show will be on Wednesday. So to get us through till that point, we've got Bangladesh v Sri Lanka tomorrow. There's not really a lot riding on this game from the point of view of the tournament, but if Sri Lanka win it, I think they're basically nailed on to qualify for the Champions Trophy in, I don't know, whenever the fuck that is, 2025. Big. That's big, isn't it, Max? Are they gonna do it? Are they gonna put Bangladesh to the sword, condemn them to, misery?
They're the only team in the competition who, well, England aside, who are worse than them. So yeah, I think they are going to do it. Then there's something on the line for them. So it's nice that they've got something to play for. I would back Sri Lanka to take on overtake Bangladesh, and I hope they do, because I think Bangladesh have been really poor in this World Cup. Sri Lanka have had their moments where they've been dreadful, but they've also had some really bright spots. Kusal Mendes, for example, with the bat has been really exciting. I think Madashankar with the ball opening up has been pretty good as well. He's been basically having to carry the team with his bowling. So Sri Lanka have, there are some bright sparks there, and they've put in some good performances that have been good to watch. Whereas Bangladesh have offered literally nothing. They have offered nothing. So apart from robbing Afghanistan of perhaps a semi-final place by beating them in early on, so I'm all pro Sri Lanka for this one.
Yeah, fair enough. Australia v Afghanistan is the Tuesday match, Ross. This is a contest that we'll all be watching eagerly. Are the Afghanistans going to pull it off?
It depends. We need Australia to have a bad day.
How can they pull it off?
Yeah,
is the question.
Yeah, Australia weren't quite at the races. I didn't think, against England, and I think Afghanistan have to hope there's a kind of a bit of a hangover. They've obviously got a little bit of kind of change within the 11, and that can sometimes be a little bit disruptive. And yeah, maybe there is that opportunity where you've got, I don't know, someone like Hazelwood or Stark or something, who are just they've played a lot of cricket, and there's hopefully something where they're not just going to be quite as intimidating as they would have been kind of 3 or 4 games ago, perhaps. And so the professionalism that we've seen in the Afghanistan top order, and that kind of ability to kind of have a bit of resistance. I mean, they batted well against India, and I don't think we should forget that, right? Against a decent bowling lineup there, so they do have it about them to do something. I think the Wankhede doesn't play into their strengths, as Max mentioned earlier. But if they are a little bit I know, a little bit fortunate with the bowling. They've got enough talent, I think, to take them down. I think there's a couple of decent players spinning that Australia lineup, but not everybody. And yeah, they've shown that with Noor Ahmed and Fazil Farooqi kind of intertwining interchanging between depending what the pitch is doing, they don't seem to get weaker in that bowling lineup, which is a big plus. What Afghanistan can't do is go off script. Sometimes it feels like they go a little bit off menu. It's not game plan, and they're just like, "Yep, let's do this just for a laugh," and don't do that. Stick to what's working. Stick to your bowling plans. Make sure that you're fielding well, because I think they've improved at that as well throughout this World Cup. And yeah, just don't give Australia kind of an easy game, and you're at least win with a shout.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. On Wednesday, a game that I'm looking forward to even more is it England v the Netherlands in what is basically a Champions Trophy qualifying final. I think the winner of that probably gets through to the Champions Trophy finals in 2025, and the loser probably doesn't. I mean, we can assume, I think, the Netherlands are going to lose to India, so they're going to need to do it on points, not net run rate. If they get to 6 points, then they're going to make it. If they don't, they're probably not. And England, with a little bit of a net run rate swing, probably edge ahead. Max, obviously the world will be watching.
Obviously.
Billions of people, I imagine, tuning into this.
Yeah.
Potentially the biggest TV event of all time. How will the players deal with the pressure?
Well, I think they'll all just melt, and both sides will be all out for 90. It'll be a tie. I think England will win. I want Netherlands to win because, from a cricketing point of view, I want to see Netherlands in the Champions Trophy. I think they deserve a chance to be in the Champions Trophy after the performances they put in this World Cup. It gives, they've got something to work towards, to build towards for the ODI team. And England have been really poor, and they don't really deserve to be there. I think England's quality overall will shine through, and they'll win fairly comfortably, even with how diabolically bad they've been so far in this tournament. They'll probably, I think maybe they will now at this point give Ben Stokes a rest, bring in Harry Brook. They should also bring in Gus Atkinson, because what's the point of him being there otherwise? He played one game against South Africa and actually did quite well. Took some, wickets at the end to kind of restrict South Africa to under 400, just about. So I'd like to see England mix it up. I think they'll win, but I do think, from a cricketing point of view, I would prefer Netherlands to take the W.
Ross, are you hopeful from an England perspective?
Netherlands are going to win. No, Netherlands are going to win. I just,
Yeah,
no doubt about it in my head. I think England are going to be at a complete low point. I think they're finished. I think Netherlands will regroup after their many run-outs and be just like, that was really funny. Let's do something a little bit different and just bat. And I think that actually that just doing the basics will be good enough to beat England.
On the run-outs, it does look like it's the first time 2 to 5 in ODIs were all run out. It's I did a bit of a stats guru search. There's a few occasions where there have been 4 run-outs of batters numbers 2 to 5 in one-day cricket, but none of the others appeared to involve 2 to 5 from the same side. So well done, Netherlands, history makers. Quality stuff.
That's good. Yeah, maybe Inzamam took up a coaching role with the Netherlands after he lost his job.
Yeah.
With Pakistan, maybe that explains.
I mean, he's out. Yeah, he's out of work now. So
yeah. Cool, right? That is the Cricket Podcast for this Sunday. It's a mega show, a bunch of games. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like, remember to subscribe, remember to follow if that is what else you do. Head over to our socials at the Cricket Pod. We're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. Follow us there. Any final words from you, Ross?
No, and if you want to join our Patreon, which has been brilliant, and thank you to all our Patreons who have been part of that Discord, because genuinely it's added to the World Cup. So we really appreciate it, and we know we've got some live people in there like Swami and Rickon. So thank you. It does genuinely mean a lot. It means that we actually can run the podcast because it's not cheap to do. So thank you.
Any last words from you, Max?
I would just like to echo Ross's thoughts and say, come on, the Netherlands.
Right, happy fireworks night, everyone. Remember the 5th of November, the day we did a podcast about lots of things, and Virat Kohli got a load of centuries.
Yeah, happy
Goodbye.
birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy
Virat.
birthday, Virat. Happy birthday, Virat. That's a good way to end things. Goodbye.